District, held on Tuesday, June 17th. Can you please rise? And Mrs. Slozak, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance
I'd
for
be
the
happy
last
to.
time, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Mr. Lincoln, before I bring you up, I just want to make a quick announcement. Tonight is Mrs. Slozak's last meeting with us. As a matter of fact, she's done such an outstanding job. If I'm not mistaken, I think they have two people that have to replace you. So,
Two for the
Pat,
price of one.
We should
on
let,
behalf of the board and the district, please
should
accept
let our
this.
students know that.
Thanks
she'll
so very
stay.
much for everything that you've done. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very, very much.
It's been my
You
pleasure.
still have to get through one more report.
I can do that.
And Mr. Lincoln, I believe you have some comments, sir.
Evening.
Good
First,
evening.
I'd like to thank you for taking me first
Well, you know, I'm surprised you're here and not in Florida, so we're
Not a
just
town
glad to
council
see you.
meeting.
Summer.
on the golf course. But anyways, the Field Study Committee always works hard, and even though we might not be successful at the polls, we never give up, and we haven't given up, and we've been able to secure a donation, and the donation is going to be for the field behind the gymnasium PE field. We've secured a donation of someone to clear it, stump it, rough grade it, bring over tailings that were piled up there from the not the sidewalk, the pathway, and also and this will also allow us with the fill coming from the South School project and other projects in town that we might be able to secure material to dump it where it's really needed and not just dump it over the bank and like we had to do last year. So if the board would approve this donation, we should be able to get started next week. I'm here tonight because you're not meeting again until July 13th. I guess just your next meeting. So
July 15th, I think, but yeah, that's about right. Any questions for Bob?
Yeah, would, by accepting this donation, we'd be is there any way we'd be putting ourselves in a position to have to spend money to preserve it or protect it in some way?
it would be like the area now behind the track. If you look at that, it's been rough graded. There's nothing, it's, when they rough grade, they level it so we don't have water build up. It's pitched, the drainage, so it will drain properly, so it don't end up with a wetland or.
Okay, so we
There
don't
won't
have
be
to,
a-
we don't have to spend to prevent erosion or anything like that?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept this donation.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second to accept the donation.
Quick discussion, the value,
7,000 to 8,000, maybe.
thank you.
Thanks. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Mr. Lincoln, as always, thank you so very much for your continued efforts on behalf of the kids in the community. We greatly appreciate it.
It's not me, believe me.
Well, you can pass that on to that field study committee. I know they do yeoman's work, and we appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving right along, Ms. Gaffney.
Hi,
Come on down.
can I sit over here? Is that okay?
Absolutely, as long as you have a microphone, just let us know who you are for the audience at home.
Absolutely. I'm Ann Gaffney. I'm usually a teacher at the middle school, and this year I've been on sabbatical. I wanted to first thank you for approving that sabbatical. My project was to work on realigning the special curriculum math program, grades 4 through 8, As you know, we have a special curriculum math program in the district. We wanted to make sure that we aligned this vertically and horizontally, and that we realigned it with new recommendations in the national and the state level, as you know, with No Child Left Behind and state stuff that's happened since then. It was time to revisit that. So that was my project. During the course of this project, I've grown sort of personally and professionally. And so again, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for approving the sabbatical. I think it's been a wonderful experience. There were lots of people that I worked with in the course of this project, and I want to recognize them for a minute. At the elementary level, the special curriculum math teachers there, Kelly Russell, Ann Smith, and Helene Carr. Carol Mack was also the administrative representative from the elementary level on our committee. At the middle school, myself, Lisa Cohen, and Jan Armstrong, working with Ann Kalachi, and then, of course, Mark Blunt. And then I also spoke some with Donna Chisholm at the high school, which was extremely helpful. She's the advanced geometry teacher there. So I wanted to just recognize them as well. I believe that you have received a copy of the curriculum and benchmarks document, it's the legal size document there. That is the main body of work that's been completed so far. It outlines what we expect to teach and what we expect to measure in terms of student knowledge in the way of benchmarks at each grade level. Still to come is a materials list of what texts and materials teachers can use to teach that curriculum, and then common assessments to help that we will use to measure student progress on towards those benchmarks. And lastly, parent information materials, which is sort of a very brief summary version of what parents can expect their students to experience as they move through the program. Just glance at my notes, make sure I didn't forget anything. There are two types of benchmarks or curriculum areas that you'll see there. On the first 2 pages are items that every student would do at every grade, things like estimating skills. These are the process skills that we expect students to learn. After that, you'll see things broken down by grade level, and that would be a more specific, what we think of as a math topic, adding fractions or multiplying decimals, things like that. You'll see what we teach in the curriculum column. You'll see the benchmark, and that's what we measure. Often, that's the same as what we teach. Sometimes they don't match exactly. For example, when we introduce addition of decimals using just money, we do that at one point in the curriculum as it's sort of an introduction. It's something that more tangible, more concrete that students can grapple with. But we're going to test addition of fractions later on when we cover addition of multiple decimal places, not just the first 2. So you will see some differences in those columns, not a huge amount of difference. The next columns on that page refer to our regular ed benchmarks, cross-referencing where the item is taught in the regular curriculum. The NCTM grade, NCTM stands for the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. That's the national organization that makes recommendations about when to teach certain items. And so we've mapped those to that document, or those 2 documents actually from that organization. And then the last column is the New Hampshire GLEs. As you know, those are the grade level equivalencies on the state frameworks and tested on the NECAP tests. So we've done mapping back and forth between those documents to make sure that we cover all of it, in a timely fashion, and that works well for our students. The main goal of this reorganization is to provide focus of curriculum material so that we can concentrate more deeply on curriculum when we do it, and then not have to review as much, so that we can take out some of that review and have time then for more to be taught in terms of the enrichment and acceleration in this program. And I think, again, what we expect to have happen, we would expect to implement this curriculum in this upcoming school year. We would reevaluate at the end of the school year to make sure that anything that needs tweaking and changing, we'd do that. We're confident that it's going to be great. I hope that you agree. We've certainly worked hard to make it so, and we'll continue to do so. Questions? Comments, thoughts?
How does this made up with the normal math curriculum?
Well, it is accelerated is the biggest difference. Students end up a year and a half beyond what the average math course is as they go through. So we've added things in, especially at the 7th and 8th grade, that are not covered normally. They're concepts that back when we were in school, you wouldn't see them until high school. And so now the recommendations on a national level are different, and they're expected to sort of be talked about earlier. And so it was some delicate balancing to make sure that we taught ideas that were in some ways new, but at the same time didn't go too far with that. You want to make sure that you bring kids to the level that they're able to access the education, and we don't want to make sure to teach something that they're going to have to take again later on. So I didn't want to set up a situation where suddenly they take advanced geometry and they've seen half the material before, but not in enough depth to pass it. So that's why we're talking with Donna Chisholm was so helpful, to make sure that we didn't set up anything.
I guess the question I'm asking, I ask it poorly, I apologize. If I take this curriculum, this matches the normal curriculum in there, it may be accelerated, but all the proposed curriculum, the benchmarks, match up with what we're doing right now or what we should be doing in the elementary level and the middle school. So it's just a continuum on here. These children may finish a little faster, get a little bit more depth, but it's identical is what I guess the question I'm asking.
Yeah, the order may be slightly different, but it is all covered. It is the same
All the students
curriculum.
receive the same information?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you bet. Anything else? Ann, thank you very much.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Right, and before Ann goes, I want to, and Mark and I want to extend our compliments to Ann. She did a great job and spent an enormous amount of time collaboratively with the staff in putting this together. This is a monumental piece of work that she did, and it was, what I would consider to be an ideal use of the sabbatical. She did a great job, and we're really very pleased. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate.
Thanks again, Ann. And actually, before we move on, Ron, I neglected to mention when we said goodbye to Mrs. Slozak that this is also Mr. Balke's last board meeting with us. So, Brian, we wish you the best of luck in your future and good luck in Goffstown. And, excuse me?
They have good buses.
They do have good buses, or at least Goffstown Trucking does. And a familiar fixture at the back of the room will not be there. Certainly not as principal, but Jim, you're always welcome back. If you're not, listen, you're going to be retired. You're not doing anything on Tuesday nights. Come on down.
Pick up Reed Clark on the way.
That's right, and pick up Reed on the way. But Jim, we wish you the best of luck in your retirement, and thanks so very, very much for all that you've done. So now,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion on the consent agenda.
I have a motion and a second on the consent agenda, and before the vote, just want to run through the meetings. July 15th, please note that is a change from the July 22nd meeting. That will be a regular meeting held here. August 12th is a regular meeting held here. August 25th, we will begin our building tours prior to school opening. August 26th, there will be a regular meeting here. August 27th, there will be the conclusion of the building tours. Nate, I assume out somewhere there's which buildings we're going to in what order. So between now and then, let's just get that up. So if people want to join us, they're more than welcome.
And,
Yes.
George, too, should mention we have a non-public session tomorrow.
Yes, I'm sorry. There's also a non-public session tomorrow evening that has been posted within the required time period, and that is for personnel issues. And with that, all those in favor of the consent agenda? Aye. Opposed? Mary, 5-0. Thank you. And we will move along to committee reports. CJ?
Hello. All right. Well, school year is coming to an end. Regularly scheduled finals start tomorrow. The band kids are actually finishing up their finals, the ones who are going to China. They start leaving tomorrow as early as, I think report time is midnight. We'll be taking a bus to New York and flying out to China, or with a stopover in Shanghai. Even though the school year is coming to an end, student council is still very active. The executive boards of the student council and the class representatives met together this week with Mr. Parent, and Mr. Elefante was there too. We planned events for the upcoming year that include things like dances and fundraisers. The student council the day right after finals ends, plans to send 6 of its members to Fort Worth, Texas for the National Association of Student Councils Leadership Conference. And there, these 6 students will participate in different leadership workshops and also take part in fun things like going to Six Flags for a day. That should be fun. And they look forward to bringing back the leadership skills that they learned there to better the student council in the school. The student council is also working with Mr. Parent for an opportunity for the entire school to open up student involvement and interaction. This plan will be set into motion in the fall. And the student council is also planning to meet over the summer and set up for freshman orientation on August 26th. And in conjunction with the student council, the town will be putting on a teen concert at the town commons under the name of Applestock on Saturday, August 16th. And this concert will feature local bands and invites all teens in Londonderry to join.
Thanks, CJ. You guys got a lot going on, as you always do.
Yes.
So thank you very much. Mrs. Slozak.
Thank you. Excuse me. Janet Buell has passed along the names of the North School 5th grade Thinking Cap Quiz Bowl winners. First place winners with 969 points are Jeff Baruti, Eric Fairweather, Sophie Bartlett, Andrew Tharrington. In second place with 949 points are Nate Richards, Matt Frieda, Alicia Fitzmaurice, Lauren Kordemosh, and Caitlin Holtzhauser. Leslie Woodard, Matthew Thornton music teacher, would like to share that our elementary schools had a very successful New England Regional Music Festival. Both the Matthew Thornton Band and Orchestra received a superb rating, while the North School Band received an excellent rating, as did all 3 South School music groups. The students then spent the rest of the day at Canopy Lake Park, and I believe they all had a good time. Thunderstorm science teacher Cindy Hirsch is very proud that her students have been featured in 3 articles recently for their environmental action projects that they designed themselves. Articles were in the Union Leader, the Derry News, and the Londonderry Times. And there was another article being crafted for the Eagle Tribune called Green Kids that was to have been published on Sunday. Festival for Youth would like to thank the community for their support of the car wash held on June 7th. A total of $857 was raised and donated to Marcel's Way, an organization that helps families with children battling mitochondrial diseases. Ginny Smith from Londonderry Middle School reports that on Wednesday, June 11th, over 500 letters to soldiers were included in a shipment by Moormart of 1,200 care packages to be sent to Iraq, Kuwait, and Afghanistan. LMS faculty and Moormart volunteers extend a sincere thanks to the 7th and 8th grade classes of Miss Robinson, Mr. McClellan, Mrs. Hirsch, Mrs. Kelly, and Mr. York. X2 training will begin next Tuesday, June 24th. An hour cablecast program will be viewed by professional staff, followed by a hands-on 3-hour training session for a smaller group of teacher representatives from each of the schools. Breakfast was served at the elementary schools last Friday for the graduating seniors. Many memories shared, news of what the students will be doing after graduation, lots of laughs and hugs. The seniors were able to view videos of bygone days and see pictures, and even some work samples from the years in grades 1 to 5. Each year, the turnout seems to be larger and larger as the graduates get a chance to come back and visit with former teachers and walk once more through the halls of their elementary schools. Students at Matthew Thornton were also caught out on the playground swinging on the swing set, so I guess not having recess at the high school has taken its toll, and they did spend a few minutes relaxing that way. I was able to attend graduation on Saturday and would like to extend my congratulations to all of the seniors. This is quite an impressive group of young men and women, and all their teachers wish them the best. In August, Londonderry Middle School teacher Steve Iarocci and Matthew Thornton teacher Stella Skoropowski will share the position that I have held over the last 2 years. Steve will be present at the first meeting of the month, and Stella will attend the second. And finally, I appreciate the chance that you've given me to share with you the wonderful things that happen in our schools. Even though my reports were lengthy at times, I only reported on a very small number of activities and accomplishments of our motivated students and dedicated staff. So I thank you for that. That's it.
Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
We appreciate all that you did. Moving to the board. Ben? Ronnie?
I don't have any meetings to report, but one of the things, can we add to the July agenda is the CIP?
Yes.
So we can have that ready for the meetings that we start in later on that month.
Good idea. Got that, Nate?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Steve?
We had a special education meeting that got spring fever or something like that. That was postponed. The I would like to make a note, though, about a South School retirement party, and there were 3 teachers that retired, and I just want to say that it's just one of the warmest environments that you can ever imagine. The nurturing staff, the teachers, made those that were leaving feel so good and so comfortable, and it was kind of like going to a Cub Scout meeting. It was just nice, good, warm feelings, comfort food for the soul. So it was a great time.
Thanks, Steve. John?
Nothing tonight.
All righty, and I attended the tech committee meeting, when was that, last week?
Yes.
Can't remember. I think it was last week. It all just blends together after a while. I think one of the biggest things that came out of that is that committee will start working under 2 separate, not separate committees, but certainly 2 subgroups. One focusing on the educational technology and one on what I'm going to call infrastructure technology. And I think that's a move in the right direction. What that allows us to do is better utilize people's time and better utilize people's efforts, and also expand and open up some of the opportunities, not only to the public, but to other folks in the district. So I think that's certainly a move in the right direction. I appreciate that coming forward. And I think that was everything that I had. So we will move on to curriculum.
George,
I'm
if I
sorry.
may.
Sure.
I was reminded that a number of us, including yourself and Ben, and I think Ron, were at the Eddie Awards a week and a half ago, a week ago. And one more time, the staff of the high school received the recognition and the banner of the School of Excellence. And that is going to be hanging, where is that going, Jay?
It's actually in the showcase,
It's in the showcase.
Great.
in front of the building, in the, by the main office.
John, thanks very much for pointing that out again. We appreciate it. Nate?
Yes, one item of note. We had mentioned earlier this year that Pauline Pichette was a semifinalist for Teacher of the Year. She has now been officially notified she is a finalist for Teacher of the Year.
Great.
So.
Good for her.
I think the next step is a presentation in August, if I believe correctly. And Steve was present when they did the on-site, and we're just thrilled for Pauline.
No, that's great.
It's a great honor for her, and it's well-deserved.
Well, congratulations, Pauline. We're very proud of you, as we are all of our folks here. Probably shouldn't say this. When I was having lunch at McDonald's today, shouldn't say it with Mrs. Mack here as the chairman of the Wellness Committee, but what's on the tray but the list of the Eddies, and there's Londonderry High School, prominently displayed across the trays of McDonald's throughout New Hampshire. So there you have it.
Right under the special sauce.
Right under the special sauce, exactly, John. Curriculum, let's get out of this in a hurry before somebody starts throwing things.
Wellness, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
Wellness.
it could have been worse. We could have brought up wellness after the McDonald's conversation, I guess.
Before I begin my
Yes.
report this evening, Mr. Parker, as a pick-me-up to this portion of the board agenda, I brought you a stimulating beverage as we hit the highlights of the 13-page C3 report this evening.
It is definitely summer.
Thank you.
It is definitely summer.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thoughtfulness will not go unrewarded.
Okay.
It almost brings candy.
Going into the report that you have this evening, this report outlines C3 activities from January to June 2008. The council during this period was very active. We averaged around 18 folks at each of our sessions. Major activities and actions centered on science, elementary core reading implementation, the LMS reading, language arts study, and ultimate recommendation to you. The foreign language recommendations at grades 6 through 12, among others. Of all of the C3 agenda items from January to June, 13 came before the school board, either in the form of presentations or approvals. I'm pleased to entertain any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Mark. Questions, Ben? Start with you. Okay. John? Steve? Ron?
All set.
We're back to you again.
Well, it's not a question, I guess it's just a observation or a statement with regard to the changes that we made in the foreign language program, creating the A and B program. I still think that's a mistake. I don't think we should have done that. But other than that, I don't have anything else.
Okay. For the board members as well, you'll find on the last page is the 2008-09 scheduled meeting dates for next year. North School was our host school this past year, and we thank them. Use of their library facilities. We will be moving to Matthew Thornton for the next school year, and those meetings will start again at 5:30.
Okay, if that's it, then thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, and we will move to deliberation, but Nate, before you do that, I had a couple of questions from folks that sent emails, and can you run through quickly how folks can determine what the changes are that we're
Right.
seeing in the policies, regulations, et cetera?
If it's a wholesale change of a policy, you're not gonna see, what you'll see in your board packet is the proposed policy and the old policy. There's a general rule on a proposed change in the policy, we'll either bold what the changes are or delete those items that, are coming out and what they're being replaced with in bold type. That will be the general indicator as to what the changes are. You will find that a lot of the policies that you have in your packet today are major changes, therefore what we did is you've got the old policy, and then the new policy, otherwise it would be too difficult to go through it.
And the old policy, if I'm correct, is usually on a different colored
Yes, it
piece
is.
of paper, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And our policy book, I believe, is online and can be accessed electronically.
Okay. Great, thank you.
As well as as well as all of these.
Yes, they're all posted on the
Items.
web.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't we start with the student discipline policies? I don't know.
Make a motion that we accept second reading of policy JG-R, levels 1 through 4, offensives.
Okay, I have a motion, and then we can second it for discussion.
Second.
Okay. So I have a motion. John, did you have something?
Yeah, I'd like to know whether you'd like to discuss this now or under breathalyzer policy, because the two go hand in hand. But I'd like to raise some questions regarding the appropriateness of refusing a breathalyzer test being a level 4
Okay.
infraction.
Why don't we do that now, then, as long
Okay.
as we're going through the level 4 stuff?
I just have I understand why we'd consider it an infraction to refuse a breathalyzer test, but on the sense of, well, a couple of questions I have with it. I'm not really comfortable with the standard of reasonable suspicion, as opposed to something that might be stricter, leading to a outcome that would be just as severe. You know, if the kid refused to take a breathalyzer test based on reasonable suspicion of an administrator, I'm a little bit concerned that the outcome of that is just as severe as if he had flunked the thing. And I'm not entirely sure there isn't some degree of protection against self-incrimination that needs to be incorporated in some of this.
Steve?
I appreciate John's points, but I just wanted to bring up one thing, and certainly it's his right to discuss it. We did spend 12 hours And I actually remember that specific item being part of that conversation, and I'd be happy to have it again. But I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we did go through that, and John is a freshman member on the board and wasn't seated when we all went through that.
Yes,
again,
but
it's not an
But
issue,
unless I'm mistaken,
you
what
can't
we're-
vote, you can't vote without
sure.
the background.
But unless I'm mistaken, the outcome then was that it was a level 3 offense. And we're changing it to a level 4. I'm not looking to reopen the question as to whether somebody should be compelled to take a breathalyzer as much as I said, the appropriateness of a necessarily more severe infraction.
I'll turn it over to Jim in a second. The reason that we put the breathalyzer back on was that on the student discipline policies, we moved drugs and alcohol to level 4. So to be consistent, you changed the level 3 designation that was in the breathalyzer to a level 4. And then that provides the cascade, if you will, of disciplinary options, depending on what decision is made by the building administration.
Yeah,
Jim?
I think, and Mr. Young is correct. We spent many hours going through this, and that was discussed. A student, I want to make this clear, a student is not getting suspended at a level 3 or a level 4 or any level for refusing to take the breathalyzer. The breathalyzer is an option that is offered to the student when we feel the kid is under the influence of alcohol or has taken alcohol. The breathalyzer is an opportunity for the student to sort of prove you wrong in that case, right? Before the breathalyzer policy was in place, those students would be suspended for the suspicion of being under the influence of alcohol. The people who do the suspensions, right, meaning the assistant principals and the principals, and those are the only ones involved in this, are trained with both experience and dealing with kids to do the best they can to make that judgment, okay, whether the child has consumed alcohol or comes with alcohol, whatever. The refusal to take the breathalyzer is not the reason the kid is getting suspended. The student is getting suspended for being under the influence or taking alcohol.
Jim, I understand the spirit of what you're saying, but I'm looking at the page that says level 4.
Right.
And under student offense, it says refusal to submit to breathalyzer after reasonable suspicion has been established.
Right. That's correct.
That's the offense. Disciplinary action is short-term 1 to 10 day
Right, but
out of school suspension.
I just want to, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I want to make it clear, it's not like kids enter the dance and we say, take a breathalyzer, take a breathalyzer, take a breathalyzer, and the kid who says, no, I'm not taking it. We don't breathalyze randomly.
Right.
We don't choose kids to breathalyze. When we offer the child the breathalyzer, we already have come to the judgment that the child has consumed alcohol. So we don't breathalyze a child or ask to breathalyze a child until we feel that we are certain that this child has had alcohol. So, and in the 2 years now that we've had it, we've used it less than one handful. The breathalyzer itself tends to let the kid say, yes, you got me already, I admit to it. We have not randomly used it. We will never randomly use it. The board does not support that. And that was not part of the 12-hour discussion. That was never the intent. The idea of the breathalyzer is, number one, is a deterrent, and it's also an opportunity for a child, if perchance we are wrong, to take the breathalyzer, pass the breathalyzer, and then not get suspended. So I know it seems like it's a reverse way of doing it, but that seems to be the way the policy is written for that reason, for the protection of the child. And the reason we have the changes, as the superintendent said, we have moved all alcohol and drugs to a 4th level, which it should be, and therefore the breathalyzer being indirectly related to it has to move to the 4th level. And that's why the change, there's no change in the policy, it's just a change in the level that's stated in the policy,
and in the regulation.
Well, I think there's a interesting question that goes along the lines of if the breathalyzer is offered as a means to clear oneself, then refusal to take it shouldn't be in any disciplinary level.
The way it's written is that after reasonable suspicion has been established. And absent the breathalyzer with the reasonable suspicion, the student would have been suspended anyways. And that when we went through the process, that was the advice that we had been given by our attorney as we walked through it. So what we're saying is we put the breathalyzer in to give a kid an opportunity to say, no, you're wrong. B, one of the reasons that we broached the whole topic of the breathalyzer and put the policy in was because we felt, in fact, that it would be preventative in nature. And I think Jim and Jason can testify to the fact that I think it has had a positive impact, and it has also assisted in kids basically admitting, yeah, I did drink, because of the possibility of having to take the breathalyzer, or some parents in some cases saying, yeah, you better blow it.
Yeah, we had parents come in and say, when the kid's saying no, take it, and the parents make them take it, and established for sure, because the parents were pretty convinced the child was also drinking. It has been for 2 years. I know, John. For 2 years, it has been, and I'm not trying to argue your point.
Yeah, I know.
Against it, but it has been a very positive thing for the school. And it's been a very, very positive thing for the students. And I feel much more comfortable having this policy and having the use of the breathalyzers for the events that we have and continue to have. And it has really helped the administration. I think it's really helped the students. And if you look at the law, the way the law is written through the attorneys, if you don't have this in, then you have the possibility of not being able to suspend a child, and every child would refuse to take it, even if they were drinking like crazy. And that's the same reason the law out in the street is that way, right? Because if it wasn't written this way, everybody would refuse to take the breath test, with the police officers or the breathalyzer. It has not become an issue at the high school. It's been working very well.
Well, for sure. I'm not looking to do anything to dilute your alcohol prevention efforts in the schools at all. The one thing I would like to point out, though, is that driving is a license. It's a privilege that is accepted on the condition of the law that you just said. As we've been saying in the school funding cases forever now, education is a right. And it seems to me to be a slightly higher standard to impact somebody's right to do something than to revoke a license that was granted conditionally to begin with.
Okay, except,
Well, that's okay. I don't know, Ron wants to.
With which I'm letting it go.
Nate had covered what I wanted to
all
cover.
we're
Okay,
saying
never
is,
mind.
A, it's illegal for youngsters in high school to purchase alcohol in the first place. B, it's a danger to their health and safety, and potentially is also a danger to the health and safety of others. And statute is very clear that, in fact, if youngsters come to school intoxicated or under the influence of drugs, it's a violation of safe, free and Drug Act also. So by doing this, what we're saying is, if we suspect, based on our physical observation, that you have internal possession, okay, which is the term that's used for drinking, we're gonna give you an opportunity to prove that we're wrong. So the way it's written is after reasonable suspicion. In other words, we think, in fact, based on your behavior, that you have been drinking based on your behavior. If after reasonable suspicion, and we give you an opportunity to take the breathalyzer, you refuse to take the breathalyzer, that's fine. That was one of the caveats that the board had when we discussed it. basically, we're gonna proceed with the discipline practices and policies that we have in place, whether we have the breathalyzer or not. This provides an opportunity, I think, for the kids to say, we're wrong. Also, at the same time, I believe very strongly that it has been a deterrent over the last couple of years. It has also assisted us in making a clear determination because kids have admitted, based on the fact that the possibility of taking the breathalyzer, and they've admitted to it. So, from my perspective, I look at it as a health and safety issue for the youngster involved and a potential health and safety issue for other youngsters.
Steve?
Jason, if a student presents him or herself at the school, and they have, in your opinion, that they have been drinking, and you've concluded that, are they not at that point in a level 4 offense?
Yes.
All right. So now they are in a level 4 offense, and they can be suspended.
Correct.
So at that point, they have the option of the breathalyzer. They are already, if there were more time, they would already be in a suspended situation.
That's correct. Based on reasonable suspicion.
Obviously, you're reacting to the moment,
Correct.
and that's when the offer of the breathalyzer comes in.
Correct. To me, the breathalyzer holds the administration accountable more so than the student, in my opinion, because we want to ensure that we get it right and we do our best and we do lengthy investigations to ensure that. But based on the reasonable suspicion, we would suspend for 5 days for internal possession. So this would be a tool for a student to access if they felt.
See, I would rather see that in the policy and not have the breathalyzer thing here. But again, the superintendent has said that, or maybe it was Mr. Elefante said that that was the advice of the lawyer, and I don't mean to belabor the point over wording. Just, I wanted to express the concern that the wording led me to.
I appreciate that, John. Anything else? All right, with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Please note one abstention.
Okay. 401.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the second reading of policy JFCH, JFCIR, students suspension and expulsion readmission contract for second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Hold on for
Sorry.
a second.
Go ahead.
No, I'm all set. I just wanted
Okay.
to make sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion on policy JFCH, JFCI-E, student suspension and expulsion readmission contract.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for
5-0.
policy
Sorry.
JFCH, JFCI-R.
Second discussion?
Okay, I have a motion and a second for discussion. Steve?
Before we move on to the next subject, student alcohol use and drug abuse. Sorry to put you guys on the spot because I don't know the answer to the question. Out of our several thousand students in the high school, how many and how often during the year are involved in an alcohol or drug situation?
Well, we do that when we report to the board. Now, it's twice a year, so you'll probably be getting your second report, obviously, probably somewhere in July or August. I don't want to give an exact number from the paper because I don't have it
My
on the
concern
recall.
is, that
Maybe,
I'd like to make the point, we have several thousand students
I
who
would
pass
say-
through the
right.
doors every day.
Yep.
Less than 1%, I would say.
I would say if we've had a total of 10 this year,
Okay.
as a guess, if that much,
You know,
total.
With the actual numbers
Right.
at a future meeting,
Right.
but I just didn't want people to get
No.
this vision of
Yep.
thousands or hundreds, or,
Yep.
it's a rare occurrence.
Very rare.
Point of order, what policies are we on at the moment?
JFCH,
Letter,
JFCIR.
This one.
letter D.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, letter D on the agenda, John.
Okay.
Okay? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's 5-0, Mary.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for policy JFCL, breathalyzer policy, for first reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I think what the only changes to this would be, it went from a level 3 to a level 4,
Correct.
It's a simple change from a level 3 to a level 4.
and there's no other changes in the whole document.
Any other discussion? I had a motion, right?
Yes, it is second.
Thank you, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? So 4,
311.
3, 1, 1.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for policy JFCL-R, the use of breathalyzer.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on JFCL-R. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Abstentions?
Aye.
3, 1, 1. Thank you.
Hey, the flow chart, had kind of mentioned to you on that?
Yeah, we'll give the board the flow chart next time.
Okay.
Because, that was part of the exhibit.
Okay.
Remember, we had the
Yes,
flow
I do.
chart?
You didn't make the
Yeah,
adjustment.
let's do that.
Yeah, I failed
oh.
to make the adjustment on that for this time,
Is
so.
anything that's second reading now, before we go to third, we'll also take
Yeah.
public comment, and we'll do the same thing through the breathalyzer. We'll wait to the third reading in case there's changes that we're making along the way. Okay, 7.2 on the agenda, nursing policies. Mr. Balky, come on down.
Mrs. Rich and Mrs. Powell?
Oh, well, welcome.
As a preamble, Brian and members of our nursing staff have been working on these policies for most of this year to adjust them based on changes in statute, and therefore, we're bringing them to you tonight, and we want to make sure we made Brian work till the last day he was here.
I would expect nothing less, Mr.
Absolutely.
Greenberg.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Nathan's exactly correct. The work that you have before you represented in the policies does serve as a culmination of about 2 years' worth of work. We began working with the nurses, revising our policies, looking at additions to our policies 2 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer. And over the course of that time, there have been legal changes and some recommended changes by the New Hampshire School Boards Association that essentially put us back at the table. So just as we thought we had our policies ready and polished to come to the school board, there was a change in the law. So we had to go back and make the policies align with the relevant statute. Just as we had it finished again, the New Hampshire School Board Association came out with recommended policies for school nurses. So we had to change it again. What I would like to do this evening, and get into as much detail or as little detail as the board requests, can explain what are new policies, what are different policies. But the policies you see before you do represent compliance with the Nurse Practice Act of New Hampshire, which is RSA 326-B, RSA 200, which oversees the nursing statutes, NHIAA, as well as the recommendations of the New Hampshire School Boards Association. Policies EBBA, emergency care, which is the first reading to amend. I can go through and indicate what's different about the policy if you'd like, but there's one addition I'd like to add and one recommended amendment. Attorney Matt Upton has reviewed all of these policies and has 3 minor language changes over the course of all those policies that he would like us to add. We were waiting for his input, and were able to receive it prior to this evening's first reading. On EBBA, Matt is recommending that in the first paragraph, where it reads, the principal or his or her designee shall be responsible for administration of first aid. Attorney Upton is recommending that the policy read, principal shall be responsible to administer or coordinate first aid. So he added the phrase to coordinate on that first paragraph. That's the only recommended change from Matt on emergency care. Moving on, item B, EBBAA. This is a policy governing the use of AEDs, the automated external defibrillators. We do have AEDs throughout the school district now. They're all on record with the state of New Hampshire. There's an RSA that governs that we have to have them registered with the state of New Hampshire, so the state knows where the devices are. And this policy is recommended because we do have the devices. We currently have the devices, but no policy. So that's the recommendation for item EBBAA, as well as item C on the agenda, which is the exhibit, the incident report that goes along with that. JHC, item D on your agenda, is not a new policy in terms of its lettering. JHC is an old policy. It has been completely reworked. The policy previously was a very short policy about scoliosis. We use the same lettering and have a more comprehensive student health services and requirements policy. Essentially, what we've tried to do here is we've tried to make things a little more streamlined and make things that flow together and policies that fit together. Previously, there were several sections in different places about physicals and sports and athletics and scoliosis and stuff. So we've tried to incorporate them together in a coherent, logical sense. So JHC is not a new policy, but it's been amended to the point that down below, you'll see item J. There's a regulation that went along with that old policy. Oh, right, my bad. Scratch that, I'll explain that when we get to I. Thank you. JHCA, item E, physical examinations of students. Does have a recommended change from Attorney Upton. On the second page, Matt is recommending that on the second bullet, where it starts, quote, "is legally accountable for his or her decisions and actions," Matt is recommending removing that first sentence and having the bullet start with, "the nurse is expected to."
Sorry, I don't think we're on the right place.
Yep.
Ryan, are you still on JHC?
JHC.
No, he's on student health services and requirements. You said
Yeah,
you
it's
wanted physical
JHC.
examination.
Okay, I'm on item D. Sorry, there's 14 of these things here. Item D on the agenda, JHC, Student Health Services and Requirements. On the second page of that, policy, the second bullet point starts with, "is held legally accountable for her decisions and actions." Attorney Upton is recommending striking that sentence and starting with, "the nurse is expected to meet existing practices." So instead of she being gender neutral, the nurse is expected to. That was his recommended change on that policy. Moving along, item E, JHCA is an amended exhibit that's in there. JHCA-R is the regulation that's being recommended to change. No, that's not the rescind yet. So that's for the athletics. Those policies are in line with the NHIAA requirements for students participating in athletics. Then we move into the immunizations of students. This is item G, policy JHCB. This is a section that had a number of changes in the RSAs in terms of what immunizations were required and when. So these changes just bring us in line with the state statutes, the relevant RSAs. Item H, JHCC, is, again, just a policy that's essentially pertaining to head lice and how we treat that in the schools. Just some changes in that.
I like the word on the paper better.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get too technical.
You did.
Moving along,
Thank you.
JHCD, administering medicines to students. This had a number of changes in it to bring us in compliance with not only the Nurse Practice Act, but components of the regulation. and RSA 200. This includes things like students self-administering EpiPens and inhalers. So that policy has been put in line with certainly the components of the law. The exhibit that goes along with that is the consent form signed by the physician and the parents. The regulation, item J, JHCD-R, we're recommending to be rescinded. That components of that policy have been incorporated into item D on the agenda above. Which number, Linda? Which letter?
They're in with the administering medicines policy.
Okay, so I. So they're incorporated into I, so that, that component is redundant, it's not needed anymore. And then lastly, exclusion from school, this is a new policy, JHCH, which essentially identifies a number of components where students would be expected to either be sent home from school or expected to remain home, with the long list of symptoms that are articulated on that. Additionally, on this last policy, Matt Upton is recommending a sentence be added at the end of the policy, which I will read. For the purpose of this policy, if a student is dismissed from school or provided for herein, the student is also prohibited from attending or participating in any extracurricular activities, athletic programs, games, practices, or other school-sponsored events without prior written authorization of the administration in consultation with the school nurse. So Matt is recommending that statement at the end. So essentially, if a student were to go home from school from being ill, that they're not eligible to participate in after-school activities. That basically walks us through it. I do have the two experts on each side of me here that could answer an awful lot more about the specifics of how this fits into practice every day in our schools, if the board has questions.
Okay, any questions?
On the first policy, EBBA, the last statement in the first paragraph, there shall be at least one person who is current in first aid and CPR certification available at all scheduled school activities, school field trips, school sporting events, and other such gatherings that are planned for students.
I'll let Linda answer that, but that's also a component in the minimum standards.
That's actually, I think, expanded language, state law 306.12. I have a technical advisory from the State Department of Ed, and that is directly their wording. That's new state law from last spring.
I'm not concerned about the wording. I'm concerned about, do we meet that? I know in the sporting events and the field trips have it, but as you go to other such gatherings, that kind of, in my mind, really spreads it out.
Absolutely.
And what's the implication of that wording, I guess, is what I'm looking at.
I think what you're looking at is, in the future, the school district needs to consider an organized certification program for their staff.
Let's stop for a second. It's not in the future. 3 readings from now, that becomes, what is the implications of the statement?
It's already state law.
Yeah. You know what I think would help, and we'll bring it back on the second reading? And I think Ron's issue is what would be considered other school gatherings? Is that?
Right, and what additional, is there additional training that we're gonna have to give the students come September? That not the students, but the teachers, that every teacher in the district shall be CPR certified and first aid certified because they can take the children out into the field and be by themselves? I don't know that, that's where I'm going.
I can give you the wording that's in the technical advisory, the definition for school activities that came from the State Department of Ed. It says field trips, school sports events, and other such gatherings that are planned for students.
That other such
Gatherings
gatherings is so
planned-
ambiguous.
Nate, can you take it back? And do you understand where I'm asking the question from?
Absolutely, because I think my guess is that such gatherings is gonna be a term of art, and I think what we've gotta do is define in effect what other such gatherings are, as it could be so wide open that it's beyond what was intended as scope. So what I think all the board is asking at this point is, let's see if we can get a harder definition of what other such gatherings are, and then if in fact that's the term, the legal term that's being used by the state, then what implications does that have as far as training is concerned for staff members?
Yeah.
Because if it's a statute and we gotta comply,
Right.
the issue then for us is, do we have enough people that are certified in first aid that at whatever the definition of such gatherings is, that in fact we're in compliance with the law, if I understand.
That's correct, that's where I'm going.
So it's not like we're arguing the point, they're not arguing the point, it's what is that definition, and then based on what some of the specifics are, does that have an impact on any kind of training that we have to do for staff or assignment of who's gonna be wherever?
I
Okay?
think it absolutely has an implication
Yeah.
Yeah.
as far as
So,
training and
Without a doubt.
assignment.
To add a,
you know, it's just another one of those unfunded
Mandates.
Well, they'll define that after they define adequate.
like to add just a thought based on that, given that we have the policy coming up this evening on field and facilities use. A really creative lawyer could make an argument that this is more or less binding the school to provide first aid coverage for Cub Scout meetings at the school.
That's not a school activity,
No, but it is an activity plan for students.
or not by the school district.
Yes, I know, and that's exactly my point. Perhaps the clarification needs to be in the area of plan by whom.
Yeah, John, I think the controlling
Take a look
language
at that, yeah.
in the paragraph would be, at all scheduled school activities including, that becomes the controlling language. So the fact that we have provided a space for an outside group would in fact exclude us from being obligated under this policy. I think,
Well, yeah, I mean, you could argue this the same way you can argue the Second Amendment.
yeah, right.
On a, do I?
You can go again,
Okay.
sure.
On a similar thing, I would ask that we just take another look in general at a number, or at all of these, to find potential areas of ambiguity or misimpression. For example, JHCH. And let me say at the onset here that I recognize what you are doing and the spirit that you're doing it in and all that. I just also know that words can get you in trouble sometimes. And JHCH, exclusion from,
Hang on, let us get with you.
okay, this is exclusion from school dash physician notes. Just above the bullet points, it says in italics, at the discretion of the school nurse, symptoms such as, but not limited to, the following list will indicate a need for the student to be dismissed from school or remain at home until symptoms resolve. I understand where you're going there, but I just want to make clear that we're not saying that a parent needs to consult with the school nurse before deciding whether he's going to keep his kid home in the morning. Because one way to
no.
read that would say that.
They don't need to consult with us,
Yeah.
but if a parent sent a sick child to school who
Yep.
meets these parameters, we could and we do
Right.
turn around and send them home again.
And one other thing, and I'm asking this because I've had this argument in our house a few times. Fever over 101 degrees and/or fever within the previous 24 hours. Does that mean and/or fever of over 101 degrees within the past 24 hours, or anything over 98.6?
A fever, most of us actually operate on something over 100, but
Uh-huh.
101 is a standard. We also look at symptoms of a sick child.
Okay.
But no, not 98.6. A fever is considered over 101.
Yeah, as I said, I know the spirit in which these are being presented. I'm just suggesting that maybe we want to scrub some of the wording a little bit harder so that nobody can hang us on the ambiguities.
We could certainly look at that, John, and this is a new policy. prior to this, what the school nurses have been, in rare instances, dealing with is kids that really needed to get sent home, who really were ill, but there was nothing really specific, tangible, that we, again, rare occasion, but have had parents say, I don't care, my kid has 102 fever, I can't come pick them up. And we would have kids who were really ill in school and then would show up the next day as well. So really, the spirit of, I hear what you're saying in terms of tightening up the language, and we can certainly look at that through the process of the 3 readings. But really, we wanted to give some examples of really when it was within the nurse's discretion to make sure that we are really protecting all the kids, that we don't have children who are ill and should be at home coming in and passing germs and then other potential illnesses on to staff and other students.
I recognize and support that entirely. It's just that it seems every time you create a policy, there's going to be some creative reader who's going to find a way to interpret it to mean something they want it to. So I've just found that the tighter you make it at the onset, the less opportunities for those to get you in trouble.
And the reasons for exclusion from school that are listed here come from several professional organizations, including the communicable disease entity of the state, as well as the policy that came out from the school boards association. And I believe that they worked with Catherine Rainey, who's the school health consultant for the Department of Ed, on a lot of these. We had a smaller list, actually, and that's one of the pieces that got expanded after that policy came out in regards to the symptomology or some of the actual diseases listed in there.
Nate, this is about,
The
Okay,
policy
go ahead.
and the discussion.
Steve after that.
I'll acquiesce
No, go ahead.
to Steve. One of the things that you've got to be careful on is that you're never going to have a totally inclusive list. So if you develop a policy like this that is perceived to be totally inclusive, that means that you run a greater risk of somebody saying, well, it's not listed here, therefore the child can go to school, or I'm not going to pick the child up. So on something like this, you identify some of these specific things that are coming, but you also leave some discretion for professional judgment on the nurse's part to say, you've got to come and pick your child up because your child is ill. So when you write a policy like this, you list some, but some of the items that are listed here, actually all of them, but you also got to leave yourself, for lack of a better term, language in here that allows for professional discretion. Otherwise, if you make it too tight and for whatever reason you've got something comes up that's not on the list, then you really have an issue to deal with, because then somebody will say, well, I'm looking at your policy and they don't have A, B, or C, and I'm not going to come get the kid.
And in medicine, nothing
Yeah.
is exact, so.
Right.
We keep children in school who do have fevers because they are not exhibiting a lot of other symptoms and they feel as if that they could stay. So, again, there's a discretionary judgment piece there as well.
Where this is really helpful too is we've had periods during the course of the year where kids have cyclically come back and just fed into an illness, and we had periods this year over several weeks, 3-4 weeks, where we had literally hundreds of kids out and we couldn't break the cycle. And by having a policy like this and saying, look, you just can't come back now, because A, you're going to just feed back into the cycle and we're going to have more kids sick, or you're going to come back and then you're going to be out again. And, strange as it may seem, one of the good reasons for having a February break and an April break is that sometimes it breaks that cycle just to get the kids out of the building and air it out, for lack of a better term. Is just a practical aspect of it.
Thanks, Nate. Steve?
Yeah, for those of you out there that have students that have now left the schools, once they do, you never get sick again. It's amazing. Question on the automated defibrillators, why does the state want to know where they are?
Well,
They keep a
believe-
registry, and so, and the registry is accessible to 911. So if you
Right.
call 911 and a possible heart attack victim, you're on the phone with dispatch, and they can say, you have a defibrillator in that building, and here's where it is. So that, for instance, our defibrillator is in the front of the building, and if somebody's calling, like, after hours and doesn't know, and they're in the back of the building, dispatch can say, the defibrillator.
So the Department of Education doesn't want to know where they are, the state,
It's the Department of Safety.
okay.
that-
Because they call 911 if someone uses it, don't they? I know the one at the church does.
We are not automatically hitched into the
Correct.
the
Okay.
fire or police departments.
So in other words, if you access the defibrillator, it doesn't send a 911 alert.
But 911 knows there's one in the building and can send people to run to the lobby.
We actually purchased our defibrillators through the Londonderry Fire Department. Mr. Perro oversaw so that we bought the devices that the fire department, EMS in town uses. So they've been part of the process from the beginning. We actually have used our defibrillator. I don't know if the board had heard. There was a fire training exercise, and we actually had a fireman from another town who ended up using it and probably saved his life.
Ron?
Authorized person, same policy, authorized employees. Who's authorized?
Which,
It's
On the third
EBBAA, yes.
We do a special training every year through the Londonderry Fire Department, the EMS services, do a first aid training that incorporates AED training. It's a licensed, we have one of their providers come in and do the training. Right now, we just do that for the school nurses. We have in the past made that open if there were other people. There are a few other staff members that we don't require to have that training, but have it on their own. So
Should,
it's part of the first aid program and the CPR upkeep on their certification.
should we have more than one person at a building that has that, and what plans do we have to expand that? As I get older in age, I just kind of think of those
Mrs.
things.
Ritz?
We do have a tentative plan for early release day for next fall to offer training to any of the staff at the middle school who would like to be trained in that. And I know Matthew Thornton, Carol can probably speak to this better. Matthew Thornton had a training. I'm not sure.
Still had a training.
I guess what I'm looking for is multiple people in the buildings. I think that's where I'm going with this.
I thought the whole point of these things were they were self-guiding and so easy that anybody can do them.
they are, and they're very, very user-friendly. But it is nice to have people who just have that comfort level.
You know what would be a good idea? When we come back with the second reading, if we could have a recommended list of people in each building who should be trained, at least go through. So just off the top of my head, the administration should, as well as the nurses, should be trained.
We were thinking the custodial staff.
Yeah, they're always there.
Custodial staff too.
We'd be happy to do that.
So
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I think that would be good, so Brian, make a note.
Made a note.
Let me ask one more question on that. Should we offer that training to the Y people that are in our building? Because they kind of fall under us and don't, because we have a contract with those people. I know the legally, I'm just wondering if they should have,
Actually,
I would,
or should they offer that training?
yeah.
They should offer the training. So,
We should offer the training, and what would be a good fail-safe is if the custodian's on the second shift.
if we have that,
They tend to be in the building at that point.
that may, I mean, you can probably, Peter, you can probably check and just with the Y, I'm betting that part of their employment requirement is that they know first aid, CPR, and AED. And John, they are simple enough to use. The problem is Good Samaritan laws
Right.
state you cannot exceed your training.
Right.
So if you are not trained in AED, you are not covered by Good Samaritan
Well,
laws. So that's part of the issue.
Actually, I
And that's
think
just the way that they're written.
I think that the Good Samaritan laws allow you specifically to use an AED.
Well, I would check.
Yeah,
But-
the one thing that I'm concerned about is whether we're creating a situation where a competent adult who isn't trained is going to be deterred from applying this thing while they wait for somebody who is trained, given the fact that speed is by definition of the essence.
It's a very valid point.
Could I just comment?
Oh.
Through the Wellness Committee, we did a lot of training in CPR and AED, and it's been a real empowering workshop for the staff members that have gone. We've had 120 people be trained. And one of the things they talk about is that people that aren't trained are afraid. And they're not going to go up to someone. And the trainer that we had did a lot to dispel that. He also reassured everyone that the Good Samaritan laws in New Hampshire are such that everyone is protected, even people that have been trained. So that's not a problem.
Even
It's
people that
not
have not
true.
been trained, you mean?
Whether they have been or they haven't been, they're protected. So the only one that wouldn't be protected would be the EMT people. They're operating under a whole different situation.
I think Ben and I were in the legislature when that one came through.
I actually might point you to the bottom of the policy. The liability, the limited liability is defined in RSA 153A:31, which is the component of the law that speaks to the protections under the state for the utilization of an AED.
Okay.
I just think as a general rule, if we just have selected staff trained, and then it's just added insurance, and I think people feel
We've
more
already got
comfortable. If you
120
run
out
through
there,
it,
so.
and then in an emergency situation, at least you've done it once on a dummy.
Absolutely, the
Second
training.
reading, We'll put together a list of some recommended staff, and we'll also be in contact with the fire department and EMS in terms of their availability to do the training.
Again, I would hope the training can be as inclusive and extensive as possible. My only concern with the training at all is creating a situation in which somebody might not act while they waited, out of thinking that they have to wait for a trained person to come and do the task.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve all of the nursing policies, including A, D, and K that have been edited and amended for a second reading at our next meeting.
And second that.
Sending Jay.
Right. And rescinding
Said-
Jay.
And Jay, okay, and rescinding Jay.
You got a motion and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
5-0, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you to Mrs. Rich and Mrs. Powell.
There's a lot of
Yes,
work that went in.
ladies,
there's
thank
a
you
lot of
very,
work
very
that went
much. We
into this. Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much.
You guys do great work. All right, moving on to use of facilities, and just to clarify, before we go there, these are all for first reading?
Yes.
Okay, well, it doesn't say that, that's why I'm asking. So I didn't know if you needed us to move them through, or,
Just first reading to
Okay.
amend.
all righty, who's doing them?
Peter.
Peter, all yours, bud.
Sure. Keeping the theme of policy night, what we're doing is the superintendent's asked me to review the board policies that pertain to the business office, finance facilities, and this is the first of a couple that might be coming the board's way for either updating, editing, or maybe new ones. The first one, the first policy is, well, the policy is KG, which is community use of school facilities. And then with that, we'll get to in a minute, is an exhibit that kind of outlines a proposal for rates to charge organizations where a fee is appropriate. Usually it's in the order of overtime for custodial work or equipment or with the district expending supplies and materials. An update or a highlight of some of the changes from the old one, was really a two-prong attack. First one was to update the policy to meet current law. The current policy, for example, says that the use of alcohol beverages on school premises may be used with prior approval. I don't think that's relevant anymore. And the second one is to really put a cap or make outside organizations recognize and adhere to the capacity levels of particular rooms for particular functions. They've asked the fire department, it's not here yet, they're working on it, but coming with this, the fire department will give us guidelines as to what they feel capacity limits would be or should be for, the most common one would be dances at the middle school CAF or Matthew Thornton CAF or South School. That should be part of the organization's adherence to being allowed to use the school facilities. The second order was to, as the demand for school facilities has become more and more prevalent. For example, we have 420 organizations that we counted that use the school facilities on a regular basis, not just once a year type of thing. We tried to provide some better guidance as to the selection of the school uses, really in particular in dances, we'll get to in a second. We tried to, we pointed out some new things, like, for example, the district will try its best not to schedule fundraising activities of similar kind on the same time, same date. And it's not fair to have like a dance, I'll use that as an example, at the middle school and South School with the same age group. It'd be competing for people trying to raise funds for a particular purpose. We will try to, and we've laid out the procedure for fundraising activities, again, in the area of dances, where school activities will have precedence, followed by, as I call, organizations that are arm's length from the school district. For example, the one I like to use is the Baby Boosters at the high school, where you've got a variety of booster clubs now for lacrosse or soccer or football that will use fundraising activities and dances to raise funds for organizations. And then the process says that after that, the rec groups will then have a shot at securing dance dates for their activities. The issue is simply that as the community has grown, organizations have grown, and new organizations have come up to fill a void. And on top of that, we've all recognized, and we've mentioned this several times, that the rec department at the town has a very small budget that's pretty much is being run by not-for-profit private organizations. LAFA, soccer as an organization, lacrosse, football and everything. But with that comes the need by organizations to have some kind of fundraising activities, whether it's through a dance or a fundraising activity like a car wash, or even when we get to fields, playoffs and tournaments. And so when I first came here, the demand for facilities was there, but manageable on pen and paper, so to speak. It has now come to the point where it has to be carefully looked at, so we don't book the same place at the same time and have two organizations show up and want to use the high school gym. That's what this is really trying to lay out and make it clear to everybody who wants to use it, especially outside organizations, how the process will be in selecting who gets what and when. One of the things we pointed out is, especially when it comes to like dances, for example, we will do our best to give everybody a slot, but we're also going to recognize that we're going to try to be fair and equitable to organizations, so that if one group puts in a request on, let's say it's July 1st is the date, and puts in a request for 12 dances, in our mind, if that shuts off anybody else from getting one, we will try to be fair and accommodate all the slots, and anything left over, if there's some left over, the group that asked for the 12 or whatever number would get whatever remaining slots they could get if possible. What we didn't want is somebody come in first, the old first come, first serve, and then the second group comes in and they have no slots available because they came in at 10 o'clock and not 9:01 or whatever. So that's what this tries to do. It recognizes the importance of fundraising activities by organizations, and it's trying to be fair to all organizations to give everybody a shot at raising some money for their organizations. Keep in mind that I would say, other than a few adult organizations, like in softball or the basketball, I would say somewhere around 95% of the organizations that use this are all student activities, student-related activities, whether it's baseball, cheerleading, or football. So we're always trying to be accommodating, but there are some rules in here that kind of lay out how the process will take place for renting and this is what gets back to your question, John, is all we do is rent or provide a space for somebody to come in and do an activity. And then the exhibit from the back is a proposal for a fee structure. And what we did here was a little different. We are trying to establish a set rate for all organizations for, in this case, as I said, the majority of the time is the overtime per custodial. And what we're doing here is we are using the senior custodian salary or rate plus taxes as almost like a detail, if you look at police detail, as a rate that will charge all organizations. And we calculated on time and a half, and if there's an event on a Sunday, it would be double time. This way here, what we've done in the past is whatever the custodian, on a rotating shift is covering the event, it's that individual's overtime and so forth and so on. But we looked at it and saying, but every organization is getting the same service. So why not just charge everybody the same fee for the same service in this case? And so instead of just going by the payroll sheets, so to speak, to determine the fee, we're gonna use the standard rate of the senior custodian salary plus appropriate taxes, and that will be the rate that gets charged for FY09. And then as we go into, contract, and the contract stipulates certain pay raises, the exhibit gets changed to reflect the calculation, each year.
Thanks, Peter.
That's G, the policy, and then the exhibit on the rates.
The only thing I would suggest is make sure you spell out exactly how you're gonna award those slots, because that's the issue we ran into several years ago, was
Yes.
certain, groups felt they were being unfairly
Mistreated. Correct.
mistreated. Just make it perfectly clear that if it's fine to submit 12, but understand that, your first choice will go in, and somebody else may get your second choice, and we'll try to accommodate. I don't think anybody will have a problem with that as long as it's spelled out.
I think that in there was one of the,
Very
where it
clearly.
says that the district will in all cases try to be fair and equitable to the selection.
Yeah,
So
and all I'm
that
saying
was-
is, make sure you spell out how you're gonna do that,
Okay.
because I guarantee you, if somebody thinks they're being mistreated, we're gonna be
Understand.
listening to it again.
I
Which is
understand.
not an issue, it's just that we wanna try to make it fair and equitable across the board. And then on the fees, it's the same thing. If we're charging one, we've gotta charge them all.
Yes.
So, just make sure we're consistent across the board there, not,
And
some
again,
folks get
just
charged, some
So everyone
don't.
knows, we're really talking, two groups on the fees. We use the term on the sheet municipal, it's
Yep.
rec groups, really, and the outside groups. When I say outside groups, I'm talking, groups that have no ties to the rec program. They're not, as the term used, a sanctioned group, but they are but they are in the community, and they've asked to use, usually it's the high school gym.
Right. Okay,
Greenberg has.
any questions? I'm sorry, Nate, did you wanna say something?
I'll defer to Ron if he has
Okay.
something to say.
Yeah, under number 10, when you speak about the, begin submitting fund requests on August 1st,
Yes.
for the period September 1st to December 31st. If you're going to have a period of time where people can do it, then you should have a close date from September 1st to August 30th, or so everyone knows at that point in time, then you award those things, then you award what's
Right.
available. And if someone comes up later, they've missed that deadline, so they may or may not get their date, but you've got
Well,
a period of time.
The reason we didn't put a close date in is it's not, the groups who use it on a regular basis, like the Blue Lions, the Wildcats, LBC and all them, will do all this. The reason why we didn't put a close date in is if we get, I'll just make it up, the Gridiron Club wants to use they have, they want to have a meeting at room 221 and so forth and so on. If we can do it for dances maybe, but for meeting groups, you want to leave that open. So if you want specifically to close that date for fundraising or dances, that's fine.
What I'm looking for is,
Okay.
you gave the example of the 12.
Exactly.
The answer is then there's some expectation that you're going to award it at a period of time, and that's
Okay.
all I'm looking for. I understand the other part of it. And I think you need to change it a little bit. If you go down to 11, where it says outside organizations will follow the rules outlined in item number 9.
Yeah,
Number 9 is
okay,
the outside groups, just the proof of liability is what you're talking about?
yeah,
Okay, I thought there was more.
okay. Well, I can look at that, and if it's changed, we can-
Right, I don't know if that's the right
All right.
reference.
Anything else, Ben? Steve, and then John.
The fees, did you say the fees will be outlined in an addendum that will change yearly?
Well, yeah, in other words, what we'll do is, if,
Wouldn't we want it textual in nature, referring to, we don't want to be approving a document every year.
no, the policy says that the fees will be
Based on.
calculated based on the most senior custodian. So from there, the exhibit then that does the calculation and crunches out the number and says it's this much, this much. So then the exhibit would change each year. You're right, the policy won't change every year. The policy says it's based off the most senior custodian. The exhibit would change when we do the raises and based on the contract. We would then calculate what the new fees are for a time and a half, double time for the custodians and so forth. Right. So the policy wouldn't change every year.
And John?
Yeah, have a number of notes here, questions that I'd like to raise, and I think ultimately we might find that we want to let some of these be addressed before we take action on this, even as a first reading. On the first page, item number 3, all use of school facilities for sports and recreational activities during non-school time must be approved by the Recreation Department before being allowed to rent space.
Yes.
Well, I mean, no, because we're not giving the Recreation Department veto authority over who gets to use the schools.
They have to be a sanctioned.
Yes, but that's not what it
sanctioned
says.
organization.
Perhaps what it wants to say is all groups seeking use have to be sanctioned. Then we come down to,
That's what it says. To my mind, that's what that says, but
I really don't think it does.
Okay,
interpretation.
I can look at it.
It says that all use has to be approved by the Recreation Department. The Recreation
The
Department.
sports and recreational activities during non-school time must be approved by the Recreation
Okay,
Department.
does that mean I can't have a pickup game on the softball field?
Well, what that means is, John, is you can have a pickup game on the softball field, but it's not approved through the school district. So if Mr. Parker asked for permission for a family, whatever, softball game, and he's been approved, he would then go to, let's say you go into the same ball field. He has permission to
Yeah.
use it, you would be asked
I
to leave.
Organized activity would trump.
I understand what you're saying, but it's not what's written. On the second page, number 10, the last paragraph, the school district will make every attempt to equalize the number of events for outside groups/organizations. Okay. The school district will make every attempt not to schedule similar fundraising activities during the same time period.
Yes.
Why? I mean, I heard your statement that it might not be in the best interest of an activity or of a group to have a similar fundraising activity on a similar date. But I don't see that we're the people who should be policing that. If multiple groups want to use the school facilities on the same date for conflicting purposes, that's for them to work out. It's not for us to administer.
However, we're already receiving comments from the middle school that the amount of revenue that the teams, I say teams, the teams usually put on dance at the middle school, and the amount of revenue that they are getting for their school-sponsored dances has gone down dramatically. And so part of the issue is to look at the school side, the effect on the school side, and saying, if the storms or teams cannot raise the monies that they need to do whatever activities are planned, there's one of two ramifications. One, they don't do the activities, or two, Andy then supplements his budget X dollars to fund the activities.
Okay,
Okay.
well, that's fine. If we want to protect school organizations, I can see an argument for that, but I don't want to get in the position where the Elks are having a dance, so we tell the Oddfellows they can't. That's not a position for us to be in. Dances hosted by outside organizations will be considered fundraising activities and assess the appropriate fees.
Yes.
Well, I'm not entirely sure about that. I mean, are all dances by definition fundraisers?
Correct, but we wouldn't be charging, again, to go back to the storms at the middle school, we don't charge school organizations the overtime fees for school activities.
Okay.
We would charge, if there's an appropriate overtime
Okay.
being charged for the Wildcats or soccer or again, we'll go back to the word, the outside to us, in this case, is usually it's a municipal rec organization.
I see your point on that one. There are some typos in the next paragraph that you'll
Yeah.
want to look at.
We took, yeah,
Religious organizations, this may seem like a flippant observation, but is a church allowed to offer communion in our school?
the church is allowed to hold their services in our facilities, and have done it for a number of years.
Does that give them an exemption from the alcohol policy?
Don't know.
Okay.
Except the alcohol policy listed, it can be exempted by the superintendent.
Okay, fine.
Designate, right?
I have no problem with that, I'm just asking the question. Under use of equipment, the third paragraph, the use of school facilities or equipment for commercial purposes is not permitted unless the local vendor is providing a service directly related to youth or recreational activities.
Yes.
Okay, but then you come to KGR. The use of school facilities for equipment for commercial purposes is not permitted, period. They should be consistent.
Yes. And just so you understand, John, with that,
Yep,
the one you read on KG, the reason why that was changed, the old policy said that there was no commercial use for school facilities.
okay. I'm just saying they should be consistent.
You're
And based on all of that, I think there are enough areas that warrant reconsideration that maybe we want to put this off for a meeting.
I would have a suggestion. If in fact the board agrees with the recommendations that John has made, the board can vote to move it to the second reading with those amendments made. That's what the board has done in the past.
That would work too.
Because we're gonna be in September.
Yeah.
That would work
You're
too.
gonna end up all the way through.
Right. So what I would like to suggest, if the board is in concurrence, John, if some of the specific things, if we haven't gotten all, and if you could just give us those notes, so we'll make those adjustments.
Can we go over them again, because I'm not sure I'm on board with all of his recommendations. Sure.
Absolutely.
Let's,
I believe one was, Ron,
let's go page by page. Let's start with item 3, I guess, was your first one. How are you amending that one?
I did not have an amendment in mind, per se. I mean, I didn't propose a formal amendment. I would suggest inserting the words group seeking between all and use.
John, could you identify specifically where you are?
Okay, I'm on KG, page 1, number 3. Currently says all use of school facilities. I would suggest what more represents what we're trying to say is all groups seeking use of school facilities.
Everybody good with that?
All non-school
On
groups.
non-school.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Outside, external groups, outside groups, any way you want to phrase it. That was the only thing on page 1. On page 2, item number 10, third paragraph. My question is whether it is appropriate for the school district to be forbidding use of a school facility on the basis of 2 outside groups having a similar event. That's a question. I'm not, one vote doesn't make the answer on that.
Ben?
We reference outside organizations a couple of times in the document, and it's really not defined. I know it means non-school groups, but, if we want outside groups, we should define it as non-school groups.
Okay.
Or organizations.
I'm good with that.
And that
Peter
appears in,
across the board, yeah, it's out there
and that
several
appears in
times.
5, for example, outside organizations.
Yep.
I would think it would be non-school.
I'm not sure, Ben, if that speaks to this paragraph on item 10.
Well, yeah, there's parts,
I
there's parts down
just
there.
asked
It's
him a
certainly
question.
not to your point,
Yeah.
John.
I guess to your point, John, I was wondering if the administration could come to some wording that, I agree with you. I have no problems with the school conflicts.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into between Laffer and lacrosse or whatever doing it.
So
That's
if we say, and, I'll get the wording better, we can't have fundraising activities that conflict with school.
School fundraising
School-like
activities.
events.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, because
Okay.
the other way you're
Fine.
giving yourself a nightmare.
And
It's a good
Peter,
point.
I think the way you'd want to do it, it would be for the same age group. So what you're saying is, if the high school is doing a
Right.
fundraising event at the high school, whatever that may be, and it's for high school age kids, it doesn't preclude somebody from doing a middle school event. or-
Right.
Yeah,
It's,
that was kind of the
So
question I
I
had.
think it's
was
just a matter of wordsmithing.
Elementary
it.
ice cream
And I-
social
And
and
I
Right.
think
high school bands.
And I think the key for us would be, in competition with school-related fundraising events. So I think what we're trying to preserve is the ability of school groups to raise funds and not be in competition with another group,
right,
the same age group.
right, I'm saying, and
George?
I'm sorry, Ben, yes.
Can I go back to 3 again?
Surely.
Technically, the Recreation Department doesn't approve anything. It's sanctioned by the town. The Recreation Department reviews the paperwork, forwards it to the town, and the town then sanctions the group. So I don't know if you want to comply it to what actually happens.
That was a recent change.
But there is no approval by the Rec Department.
I think we could just simplify by saying sanctioned groups.
Right. Or town
Yeah,
sanctioned.
there you go. Even if they change back, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
Then,
Yep.
okay,
Ben.
on number 9.
I'm sorry.
Again, we go to outside groups must provide proof of liability. I assume you're referring to town-sanctioned groups as opposed to
Bless you.
the example we had earlier from pickup, games on the
well,
field.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's that outside
if they
groups
want,
again.
again, I'll go back to John's thing, if you were gonna ask us to use the softball field up in North School, I would ask you for some kind of certificate of insurance, okay? So then I know that something, if something,
So-
your group does something, you've got insurance to cover whatever damage, or if John does it,
So,
he's on his own because there was no approval from the school district to allow him to use it, he just walked on by himself.
so the Parker Family Reunion, for example, would have to provide $1 million liability insurance.
Which is why we don't have too many family group, organizations on the premises.
Right.
Peter, this has been the practice in the past, right?
Oh, yes,
Okay,
yeah.
that's fine.
Anybody else? John, did we get everything that you?
Well, there were a
amended?
couple of things
Well, I thought we-
remaining.
Go ahead.
On
What are
page
they?
3, I asked the question about wine if you'll pardon the phrase, in good faith.
Yep.
I think that was handled.
Yes, it was.
The question under use of equipment, the use of school facilities, not being used for commercial purposes unless the local vendor is providing a service directly related to youth or recreational activities. My point there was that it should be consistent with G.
Yes.
And if KG-R. And if the wording is to remain the local vendor, please be aware that calls into question who's local, who's not. And do we have a right to say that a vendor from Derry can be here, but a vendor from Sandown can't? And I guess those are the only things worth stomping up and down about.
Excuse me. Anything else on KG?
Do we have a motion?
Just
We don't yet, no.
Under-
Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
And just clarification, under use of equipment, I assume we're talking, where it talks, providing a service directly related to youth or recreational activities. We're talking about town-sanctioned, groups and school.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to clarify that.
I'll do the old legal thing where it says outside groups mean this and put a little like definition of what we mean by, say, an outside group and what a municipal group is and.
Chris, for instance, if the Lions were
Yeah,
to
example.
use a room at the school and they want to use an overhead projector or something, that would be part of their request when they put it in, so it's there. I think Peter's concern in writing this was sometimes outside groups want to borrow our equipment and remove it off-site. And I think that's what he's attempting to prevent.
But
We're gonna write all these things up, then you either gotta be specific or not, because in my mind, if the Lions wanna use the projector in room 221, or we should let them, but are they a town-sanctioned group?
No, they'd be an
I'm thinking
outside
no.
group.
Well, let's see.
They would be truly an outside.
Problem with
But we're
policies and
opening,
all this
we're opening
nonsense,
another
we're just
can of worms
getting
here,
ridiculous now.
too, because one way of reading this, could, if we read it the way it's in KG-R, a flat prohibition against commercial purposes, that could be seen very easily to shut down the snack bar at a football game.
What's that?
No, 'cause that's a booster club.
Yes, but it's a commercial purpose. It's making money.
That's fundraising.
It's fundraising.
It's still commerce.
It's fundraising. I could argue that one.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you could. I'm
You
just
could
saying
argue
it's-
them all, that's the point. That's why I'm saying this is just getting,
I think
can I say
with
something?
Peter has use
we
of
have enough
equipment.
policies.
I think I would classify the Lions or whatever, or the groups of that ilk as civic organizations. They would fall in under civic organization.
I was fine. Steve, I'm sorry.
Just under use of equipment, the term local vendor, if we remove the word local,
Just make it vendor.
it makes more sense.
And it solves John's issue. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem.
Yeah, all right.
So you just want to make a motion on KG, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion on policy KG as amended.
Second.
I have a motion is second. All those in favor of moving it to a second reading, that's policy KG.
As amended?
Aye.
Aye.
As amended. Thank you. Opposed? Okay, KG will go to a second reading. And
Nate, can you put all the changes in italics?
Yes.
Do it,
yeah, as you go along, Peter, just
Or bold.
whatever. Yeah,
Bold,
just
however you wanna do it,
just
that'll work out well.
Identify it so that we can tell, and then I'll do the same thing when we get to the third reading. I'll take public comment, because there may be some out
Yeah.
there. There may not be. Okay, KGR. Next. Give us the highlights.
The
Peter,
highlights for
please.
the fields policy, one was, as you can imagine, the age of the policy kind of dictates that we have done, as you know, substantial amount of work on the fields, even though we didn't get money the past 2 years. It was really to recognize some of the new fields that have come online, that are being used. Also, we increased the number of uses, mainly in the spring, and that's really due because now all the fields have irrigation, which allows more usage in the spring. The spring really beats up the fields, as you can imagine. We've kind of tightened down the policy on managing the fields. It's now in the policy that myself and the new athletic director will be actively managing the usage and trying to plan these things as best we can to allow everyone to use it, but also to follow the guidelines of the policy, the number of uses in the fall and in the spring. And it also dictates that the town, as I think the old policy did, will provide a list of the sanctioned rec groups who are allowed to use, in this case, the fields on the school grounds. Again, it gets back to, over the past several years, not only of more organizations cropped up who want to use the fields, but the number of amount of kids in each of the organizations has increased dramatically, and so we felt it was prudent, if we're going to update the facilities policy, to also take a look at the fields policy and bring them in back to back.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Any questions? Ben, I'll start down there.
Just, you have the town sanctioned as opposed to approved by recreation.
Yeah,
issue.
I'll fix this.
Yeah, just get consistent across
Right.
the board, Peter. Steve?
This one's not on the website.
It's not?
Okay, hold on one second.
Okay.
John.
Just
will be
particular,
s-
the use of athletic fields is, I
R.
cannot find it on the website.
Ours, I don't see out there.
Okay.
So just jump it out there, Peter. John?
Perhaps predictably, I'd just like to call into question item number 7, the dog clause, or the pause clause, however you want to put it. I'd just like to suggest that we want to tighten the language up a little bit. It currently says dogs are not allowed on school grounds during school-sponsored events except where granted for working dogs. I recognize it's the intent of the board to say that dogs can't be at school-sponsored events. I think this wording is a little bit beyond that, because one interpretation, it may be reasonable to say a dog could be on the field jogging with somebody around the running track while a sanctioned soccer game is going on at the field below the plateau.
Well, this policy dictates what is, the dogs aren't allowed where the game or activity is being played.
Yes, that was my understanding of the policy too.
That's how we would enforce it.
I just would suggest we might want to recraft 7 a little to capture the spirit of that.
I'll take a shot at it. I'm not,
Because I think the way it's written says school, just say school activities,
no, I think what John's concern is if there's a school activity on the track,
right,
there's a track meet going on,
right?
can John have his dog walking on the middle school game field?
Yep.
It's germane to the particular field where the activity is.
Exactly.
I said that.
That's what he's trying to say.
That's not what it
Well,
says.
I don't like dogs, that's why we got it that way.
Yeah, I know, but I do.
We know that, and I like dogs, and that's why I'm still gonna vote against it again.
Yes, we'll put something in.
You got it. Okay.
Woof. Okay, anybody else? So, I'll take a motion.
It was a rough discussion.
This was a rough discussion. You're a regular comment.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion on policy KG-R for second reading as amended.
I have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
Yeah, no.
3-2. We'll move to second reading. And with that, we will move to acceptable use policy.
There is only one change. The board recently approved this policy on June 17, 2008, and we noted that what we had missed here, and it's on pages 10 and 11, is a note on the bottom, that this acceptable use policy and also the software code of ethics applies to all employees, volunteers, substitutes, student teachers, interns, and any other person who's provided with email, network, or internet access by the Londonderry School District. That's the only change, and it's noted on pages 10 and 11 in your packet, in the big bold print.
All righty.
That's it. That's the only thing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion on policy IIAE for staff for the first reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What about contractors?
We wouldn't give them an email address or
Well, hold
access.
on a second.
Contractors.
What kind of contractors are you referring to? Type of, I'm thinking if Sean needs to get somebody out there for 6 months
Right.
as a contractor,
Good
that
point.
individual may need
Right.
We will insert contractors.
access.
Thank you.
I was thinking of Brian, but that's beside the point.
Oh, yeah, actually, Brian as well, or, I'm thinking Sean is what I,
He's coming
when
back.
he said
No.
contractor, that's
He's
what I.
got another 3
Brian's
hours.
people that he would contract
Right.
out his services.
Good point.
Yeah. So I, just add that,
Just add contractors.
so as amended.
Contrary to public opinion, I am awake over here.
But you got the coffee.
He hasn't touched it.
Okay.
Oh, he's got a little sip out of it, that's good.
So-
All right,
so
all
we-
those I got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, Mary, 5-0. Nate, can I just ask a quick question related to this? Do we have a volunteer handbook? I know we've got a staff handbook, a copyright handbook, and do you have a handbook or information that we give to volunteers who come in? That was just no? Okay, just,
Not that I'm aware of.
okay,
Yeah.
for another
We're right on
discussion.
schedule.
Okay, hey, we try, John. We do try.
Yeah, but we're right on schedule anyway.
Mrs. Mack,
All right, I know you don't
District
want to hear
Wellness,
this.
I do want to hear it. I
Okay.
want to hear it. It doesn't mean I'm going to adhere to it, but I want to hear it.
And I know Mr. Elefante doesn't want to hear it because he told me to speed it up.
Jim, do you got donuts?
However, the Wellness Committee has been working for 2 years. If you recall, 2 years ago, we were mandated to come up with a wellness policy. And so we formed a wonderful committee with administration, parents, a school nurse, members of all the schools, students, physicians, and even a registered licensed dietitian. And we've really done some wonderful work. Now, at first, we had a little bit of problem, resistance to change, lack of direction that people are feeling, skepticism about the concept of wellness, ingrained
Lack of support in
habits,
some cases.
and lack of
Inertia.
financial resources. But we have prevailed, and wonderful things are happening throughout the district. And I really want to thank all the people that have been working so hard on this. We've had a number of district initiatives that have gone on. We have individual school wellness committees at most of the schools now. We had a Walk New Hampshire with 3,360 participants where we walked 6,082 miles. We have staff walking clubs with staff members walking the hallways of the schools in the cold weather, and now they're walking outside. We're using non-food rewards for the students, and that was largely thanks to Beth Wheeler of the Foundation of Healthy Communities. And we're using them, and the kids are loving them. The middle school has really taken a very strong role in this. They started out with that 5210 sign that had everybody in town talking, and they moved on. They had a wellness day. They've done some absolutely wonderful things that are making changes in children's lives. The high school's getting into the act. They have their school newspaper, the Lancer Spirit, has a health and fitness section.
Probably a lot more into it.
I love how seriously you're all taking this, and I'm going to keep going. And
Sorry, we'll pay
we're
attention now.
really, really happy with everything that's been going on. So, we thank you all for your support, and we will continue, and we have goals for next year that include, and John, you're going to be so proud, we're going to review and amend the policy that we've come up with. We are going to support the school wellness committees. We're going to maintain the momentum that has been established in the area of wellness and wellness education and the use of non-food rewards. We're going to support continued improvements in nutritional offerings at breakfast and lunch for our students. Nancy has been working very hard in that area and has made some significant gains. We're going to support the move to reduce the sale of soda and sweetened beverages. And we're going to work with the school PTAs PTOs, and school organizations to foster the continuation of a healthy approach to items sold in fundraising. So, we're hoping, we've been kind of letting things bubble up from the committees rather than handing down mandates, and it's been working. And we greatly appreciate your continued support. Would anybody have any questions?
Can we get you scheduled same night Nancy's making a report so you can have the cookies?
Now,
Do not jeopardize the cookies, okay? Jeez.
May hand out
Now I see
stickers
why
at
Jim's
the next
leaving.
meeting.
The reduced soda sales for the principal's funds.
John?
Carol, apropos of policies and all, I wonder if you could fill us in on how how business is down at the ice cream stand?
I don't have anything to do.
Anything to throw at him?
Independent organization. You need to read this story. It
Anything
explains.
else? Do you have anything?
I actually have a serious thing, I thought.
Sure.
I don't think we're there tonight.
Oh, no. See, there's only one member of the press left in here, so they're only going to
They're
get.
watching on TV.
So we are or are not.
They're watching on TV.
We are or are not pulling all the soda machines out of the schools.
We're not pulling the soda machines out of the schools. No.
Okay.
The committee's not doing
Ron?
In all seriousness, I think, we talk about wellness on our staff and how it affects our medical rates and all that, and I see the Human Resource Department and the amounts of work they're doing in that area is tremendous for the staff. So I appreciate all the work there, and I know we don't have a formalized wellness program for them, and that's something that I know Peter and Sue have been talking about quite a bit.
Well, Susie is on the committee, and she's
Right.
been helping us too.
I think, they've spoken about plans through the health providers type of deal, a wellness plan through that with a survey and all that stuff. So that may be something that we may want to investigate further.
Thanks.
I think,
Got something else?
Sue, yes, I do. Sue's not here, but I think that, I'll take this to Sue on the
She's outside.
Communications Committee meeting, because I think there's a number of things here that could be done to, promote it on a interrupt basis. I'm thinking the website. There's a lot of facts here that are interesting that if they popped up once in a while, it wouldn't be bad.
Well, I think the work has been wonderful, and I know that's the problem that you run into when you talk about things like wellness, is people don't always take it seriously because they have their own ingrained habits, and everybody's assuming that we're kind of try to change everyone, and that's the most wonderful thing about this committee, is people are working to educate the children and to work from the ground up. We're not sending down mandates and saying everybody is going to do the following. We're letting it come from the committee. And I think the CPR was one very good example of that. It came out on the surveys that we did at the beginning, where we looked for areas that we could target for improvement in wellness. And a lot of people asked for CPR training. So one of our staff members, Lynn Peters, got in touch with the EMS McGregor out of UNH. And they came down and they provided, I think Pat was there, they provided the most wonderful training opportunity. And all the staff members that went came back and said, that was the best time I have ever spent in staff development. This man taught us how to save lives. And just reading last week about Tim Russer and reading that he didn't get compressions when he passed away, that he got somebody trying to breathe into his mouth with one of the mouth guards. If they had gone through the training that we went through, they wouldn't be afraid to do compressions and wouldn't be afraid of what happened, and maybe he'd still be around. So I think, we laugh about this whole thing, but good things are happening, and 120 people on the staff have now been trained thanks to the work of this committee. So it's coming. It started with Anne Marie and Nancy Faucon, and we started working on this policy, but it really is having long-term effects, and we're really proud of what's gone on.
And Carolyn, you should be proud, and so should everybody else. I mean, all kidding aside, we may joke about it, but it really is, as Ron points out, in monetary ways, because it helps us on, health insurance, but it also makes people live longer and it makes them feel better. And anybody who wants to get an hour's worth of physical activity, certainly on Thursdays, can join us at 6 o'clock at Max Apples for a bicycle ride around Londonderry. I had to throw that in.
That starts at the ice cream stand, right?
It starts and ends at the ice cream stand, but that's somebody else's prerogative. Thanks, John. Well, Carol, thanks so very much, and thank the committee, and we look forward to hearing about it again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Corey.
Wait, it got broke.
Tonight, I wanted to provide the board with an update on DARE.
Thank you.
First of all, what we've been really working towards is taking DARE from an isolated activity into something that's embedded in the curriculum. Presently, if you are on a particular sixth grade team during the first quarter of the school year, you would have DARE, and that would be the last time many of those topics would be covered for your entire middle school career. So we want to move away from that isolation into an embedded curriculum. I am happy to report through Captain Hart and Corporal Kelly from the Raymond Police that all students did finish the DARE program. So all 4 sixth grade teams finished it this year, and that program was completed. And I really want to thank them for stepping up and finding us a DARE officer to make that happen. What we're proposing is to move from DARE to a program encompassing many aspects of our existing curriculum while revising and replacing others. The program is designed to address 5 character themes and how these themes relate to self and others. The character themes will be presented to students in grades 6 to 8. The program will be phased in beginning next year with 6th grade only. The character themes that we're looking at are teamwork, enthusiasm, respect, responsibility, and compassion. And again, that's to self and to others. We plan to do this using a life skills process during the school year. They will have both experience out in the field as well as classroom activities. The activities will differ based on the needs of each student population, though all will include goals and objectives that work on the following life process skills: communication, cooperation, responsibility, respect, compassion, feedback, tolerance, problem solving, goal setting, curriculum thinking, and leadership. The first thing, as I presented probably about 1 or 2 meetings ago, is the 8 sessions that we were proposing that are similar in nature to the way that DARE was constructed. The first 2 sessions would be taught by Jack Janakis and our health teacher at the 6th grade. They would focus on, first of all, Jack's role, so that every child would know that we have a community counselor and what his role is and what he's there to assist with, not only for students but families as well. They would also, in health class, begin the discussion of drugs and drug abuse and the various things that go around that, and really get the students at a comfort level with Jack and the health teacher to delve into these topics later on in the program. The next 2 sessions really revolve around one of probably the biggest problems that we're facing right now, which is internet safety and cyberbullying. This is the generation of text messages, IMs, and emails, and it's very easy to get on the other end of an email and tell somebody what you feel. And as a result, when you're not as mature as maybe we might want you to be, some of the messages that are exchanged are inappropriate. And it's something that's happening outside the confines of the school, but coming back to the school, because parents are struggling with it, and the police is getting numerous calls. So those are 2 significant areas that will be covered by our school resource officer and our computer teachers, because again, we want to get it embedded in computer class, you know, so that's not this isolated piece. The next session, Jack will come back, and we are still looking at some type of formal pre-survey so that we'll be able to have like a pre and a post test to see students' knowledge, and Jack is researching a number of different programs, and I'll talk about a couple of those at the end that we're kind of leaning to, and we'll have more data for you. Again, he would go back into one of the 4 core classes, which are math, science, English, and history, and replace that teacher for the day and go through this pre-assessment survey to really get a sense of where these children are at. Because right now, you get the same program no matter what team you're on. And we're hoping that, you know, if all of a sudden we see a particular team that has greater needs in certain areas, that we can use that data for those presentations, as well as to assist our guidance department, our administrators in how to deal with the children that are dealing with these problems. Then, after Jack has the survey, he will gear a whole session around risk and protection factors, and that whole survey will be used as a driving force to have that whole discussion. So again, that will not be the same per se per team. It will be based on the needs of that team. one of the big things that we see more and more is adolescents dealing with anxiety and stress. And we really want to start to give them strategies because it's becoming much more predominant in the classrooms. And when students are uncomfortable or anxious, they're unable to learn. So we're looking at strategies not only that we can give to children here, but that Jack will do working with these families that are identified so that it becomes more of a wraparound service. And then guidance will continue. One of the specific topics they cover is sexual harassment, but they will also now move into all forms of harassment. So those are the 8 areas that, again, we still have more work to do this summer, but we feel that looking at Londonderry Middle School, what we're dealing with, what we see as administrators, those get us on the right track. Along with this, we decided to look at a number of things, so we outline a couple more of our programs that we want to incorporate it. First of all is the Brown Center. We are proposing that we no longer utilize the Brown Center staff. We believe at this point, between our 6th grade teachers and our physical education staff, that we can run this program. And that is actually coming from the teachers. It will allow us to embed the curriculum into their team activities. We actually piloted this winter with the monsoon team. It kind of happened by accident. The Brown Center at about 6:30 in the morning called us and told us they weren't coming because of snow. We had approximately 120 kids ready to go. Snow to them in the 6th grade is no big deal. They had brought the proper clothing, let's go. And I commend the Monsoons because they went out and they did it. And the feedback the kids gave was, wow, it was really great to see Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so in a different environment. You know, I didn't realize, you know, how much they liked being out in the snow, and comments like that, which was really kind of what we were after, but by bringing in the Brown Center in between, they weren't having the direct interaction with their teachers. So we believe we can do that and develop a deeper appreciation for staff, which we observed after that day. Also, it provides us with the flexibility regarding times and dates. So if it does pour and we don't feel it's appropriate to go out, we don't have the Brown Center facility either canceling on us or we're saying to them we don't want to go outside. This would really open us up to basically looking at weather forecasts and determining what is best for kids. It will also allow us to offer both half-day and full-day experiences. A number of the teams have commented that at the beginning of the year, they could use a couple sessions that are maybe just 2 hours long. You know, they could condense their classes, have all their classrooms done, and then go out from, 12:30 on and do a lot of these team buildings so the kids who are coming from the multiple schools feel a lot more comfortable. We presently work on just the entire day program. Next, I come back to Carol's 5210 Health and Wellness Initiative. This has gone very well at the middle school. This is an area that we have incorporated areas of both physical and mental health. We have had presenters come in and topics of anorexia, bulimia, body image, and male and female stereotypes. And many of the parents have called and commented that these are very appropriate topics for the students at this age because, again, the last presentation that came in was just, I think it was last week, they had a life-size model of Barbie. And they basically went through why Barbie is not the greatest role model for children, nor could she ever exist by ratio and proportion mathematically. And it was goofy and funny, but many of our young ladies comment on it, and really kind of took the pressure off them because of what they constantly see, whether it's TV, newspaper ads, magazines. So through the wellness program, we're really looking at utilizing that to address a number of those situations. And we have a 5210 moment every Monday and Friday. The kids do something on the PA as a constant reminder, and they've gone from just healthy eating and choose a carrot over a donut to things like, what is the definition of anorexia? What is bulimia? And again, it came back to guidance. Now kids were talking and coming down and you're getting services to them. One of the things that we do as a community that is great is service learning, and we have a number of projects that go on. We clean the skate park. We serve as volunteers at the soup kitchen. We make scarves for the animal shelters. We work with Beautify Londonderry. We do a number of things. Almost every single team has a project. But we don't do a very good job at this point of teaching them that is service learning and giving back to your community. So we honestly believe by incorporating this under this umbrella of the 5 character themes, we can enhance what their responsibilities are as a citizen to this community and when they move forward from this community in the future. Our guidance staff is utilized this year to examine their program, and will be incorporating awareness programs on internet safety. They will be expanding an anti-bullying program that will get them into all the classrooms. And for the first time, we're looking at a high-risk prevention program for the sixth grade students. We're working with the elementary schools to kind of understand who those students are. What we have in place for next year is we have teachers who have volunteered basically to be mentors. And if you're kind of an at-risk child and maybe everything isn't perfect at home, you would have somebody in the building that you could go to, check in the morning, I'm here, did you get your homework done, what's going on? Just some of those simple things that a lot of kids, that's what they need. You know, they don't need all-out guidance sessions, they just need to identify with an adult in the building. The new piece that we're proposing, and what we're looking at, is some way to finish the year, have an experience with the sixth graders that really brings more responsibility to them. We looked at what is probably our, I'll call it most well-liked, biggest curriculum unit in the sixth grade is the immigration unit that we do that kind of focuses on Ellis Island. We average probably 25 or 30 volunteers, parents who come in, and they make Ellis Island happen in their pods. We are seeking permission to take the sixth grade to Ellis Island. We are proposing a one-day trip where we leave about 5 o'clock in the morning. We'll be back at 9 o'clock at night. They will visit the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, and they will drive by Ground Zero because that is their history for a lot of them. The cost is cost to parents. It would be $117. The Brown Center next year would have cost $105. I think we'll get a lot more bang for our buck. I think it'll be the type of experience that we want children to have. It'll relate curriculum to hands-on activities. Going forward, the plan would be that I would come back to you regularly next year to talk about what's going on with the sixth grade program and give you updates, to tell you about the 4 sessions we'll be adding to 7th grade, and by the end of the year, the 4 sessions that we'll be adding at 8th grade, so that this program will have sessions at 6th, 7th, and 8th, diminishing over time. That at-risk population will be tracked from 6th to 8th grade. On the last 2 pages, just the outlines of the proposed trip. We are planning to send 2 staff members out to New York in late June to do a reconnaissance mission. They will do planned scavenger hunts and do a number of curriculum activities, as well as map out places to eat and things for the kids. So with the board's approval, we'd like to be able to move forward and put this out to parents and come back with repeated updates and move forward with this new program to replace DARE. Questions?
Questions from the board?
I guess there was drug and alcohol. This here has nothing to do with drug and alcohol. I guess, what are we doing in that area? This here, I guess, very worthwhile. I understand what you're doing here, but this is not a replacement for DARE in my own mind. It's a new program.
Oh, it's absolutely a new program. I mean, drug and alcohol is still covered through the sessions, you know, but now we're using our own counsel. We're not, I mean, Jack Tanakis, if you look at the sessions, you're looking at, the first one is drugs and drug abuse between the health teacher and Jack Tanakis. Because 2 things happen with DARE. DARE has historically been a separate officer who comes in for 8 sessions and then leaves that team and goes to the next team. So there's no connection necessarily. It wasn't the school resource officer, so it wasn't somebody who's in the building every day. It was the DARE officer. Then in the final 4 sessions, Jack does another one on drug and alcohol, and then he does a section on risk and protection on drug and alcohol. So I would say this has as much on drug and alcohol as DARE did. The pieces that DARE didn't have that I think are critical that we need to add now are this whole internet piece.
Just,
Andy, to get to Ron's point, what's the total number of drug and alcohol sessions you have?
There are 4. There are 4.
Total of 4.
So there are 4. I mean, when I look at middle school, I mean, there are 4 in the 6th grade with this new program. Right now, there are 0 at grade 7 and 0 at grade 8. If you think of DARE, I'm not sure which team, let's say it was the Twisters, had DARE the first quarter. So they get 8 sessions of DARE, and then for the rest of their middle school career, they do not get anything else on drug and alcohol taught by the school.
Yeah, and I think in year 1, we have, well, if it was 8 weeks, then I guess you're down to 4, but I think the advantage, because my issue with DARE had been that you get it for 8 weeks or a semester, and then you may not talk about it again for,
Right.
when you're in high school, maybe.
Right.
So I think that was lacking, but I think once you see a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade plan, it'll go forward. John?
I think Steve
And
has something
I'm
first.
sorry, Steve?
Um,
And John?
Yeah, I'd like to, I think you're doing really good stuff in terms of the whole, is it pronounced Turk?
I think that's what's going to be
TERC,
pronounced.
yeah, program. The one thing that I'd like to bring up is ask a little bit about the history of the Brown Center. My recollection, well, my sons graduated from high school this week. My recollection is when they were entering junior or middle school, there was the Sergeant Camp program that was essentially a team building kind of thing.
Correct.
That went by the boards partly, at least in part, because of the cost of it was escalating.
Right.
And the Brown Center thing seemed like a way of doing a similar, achieving a similar goal at a lower cost. So are you now at the point where we think that we can achieve that goal using internal resources and no beginning of year expedition somewhere? No offsite, no off campus? Or do we not think that goal is any longer necessary?
Talking with the 6th grade staff, they believe they can duplicate what we're getting out of the Brown Center. Many of them were people that went on Sergeant Camp and know the skills and things that were taught. They feel that they were taught at the Brown Center, but they feel that we can do those locally. Part of the problem does come back to that cost. You know, that's why the Sergeant Camp, when we left, it was $280 for 2.5 days. Brown Center, the first year we went to Brown Center, we hit enormous transportation costs. You know, that's the factor that affected that. Then we brought Brown Center to us. They have worked with us, done a great job. Like I said, it was by chance that we actually had a team not use the Brown Center. They did the Iditarod competition. They did the whole thing themselves. And what came from that was simply the relationships to the teachers.
Okay. Thank you. I understand. The one thing that I'm still a little bit hesitant about is coupling the end of the Brown Center utilization with the New York trip idea. I think the New York trip idea is certainly one worth considering, but I'm not entirely sure it's appropriate to say because we're not going to ask parents for money for X because we think we can do it for free. We are going to ask them for money for Y. I think that maybe these should be looked at as separate things.
I have no problem with that. It's just, I was looking at more of an experience to tie the entire year together, not the Brown Center. I mean, that's my thought on that. And then where I came with that was simply the knowing what the immigration unit and how that is received by children, and then to bring that into real life, to go see that is the piece we were looking at.
I like the idea. I'm just not, you know, at this exact moment comfortable that I know that if parents have a choice between not spending that money and spending it on something else, At this, point of 2008, they're going to say, let's spend it on something else. I just don't know.
And I can't disagree with you. That was one of the other reasons we made the move from Sergeant Camp and somewhat to keeping Brown Center on site, because of the kids who couldn't be involved. Now, if all of a sudden the signups for this trip concern me in terms of numbers and percentage of kids not going, then we would have to definitely look at that.
Okay, thank you.
I think, I don't quite understand how it ties in, the trip item as with this big picture. Jack's, we've used Jack's name quite a bit. Jack's full name?
Giannakis, Jack Giannakis.
And could you just go over a little bit on his training and expertise, his background and experience?
Sure, he's the school community counselor. He's licensed to deal with all these issues. He works at the middle school every day. He's a full-time position, and he works with children who either have family or personal issues with these topics. He is our resident expert.
And his training in school was for drug and alcohol counseling?
Correct. He's not a counselor. He's not a guidance counselor. He's a trained drug and alcohol counselor. This is what he does in private practice as well. So this is his area of expertise.
And an unrelated question, the time on the bus for that last module you talked about versus the time on the site. In other words, how much time will they be on Ellis Island and how much time will they be on a bus?
You're looking to approximately get there somewhere at the lunchtime and being there for the entire afternoon. It's funny, in terms of the bus time, doing the bus to Washington, that's the thing that kids talk about the most, as opposed to all the other things. If you've had a child go, that's what they talk about. Oh, the 10 hours on the bus. This year, they saw teachers doing karaoke and all those little things that when kids leave middle school, that's what they talk about. They don't really come back and say, I really enjoyed, that algebra class we had. It doesn't happen.
Andy, just for a clarification, Ron brought up a good point about drug and alcohol. Don't you do an extensive drug and alcohol program in 8th grade? presently?
It's in health.
Yeah.
8th grade has in the health class, it does drug and alcohol as well. So when you see the proposals for 7th and 8th, you're going to see those components being taught in health, but it's just more tying them into the overall program.
Just for clarification purposes for the community too, a major component of the DARE program was factors that impact the kids making poor decisions.
Right.
Is that correct? So
Right.
it was not just
Right.
teaching about drugs and alcohol. It had to do with factors that led kids to make inappropriate decisions, health-wise and drug and alcohol-wise. Those items are covered in this, as well as being spread out over it, and have in fact extended to issues that were not addressed in the DARE program. So cyberbullying is something that has come up of late, as well as body image to a degree, which impacts some kids' poor choices
Right.
on it. So in a sense, you've addressed many of the component factors that were the underlying basis of the DARE program, expanded some, right? Because what you're really getting is at kids' stress level, how kids go about making a decision, making appropriate choices, as well as drug education. Is that correct?
Yes. And I think until it gets 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and you have the full program, it's hard to say. And I honestly think that this is going to be a work in progress, and that's why I say there will be multiple reports to the board, because what we're proposing here, we need to go through and find out where the problems arise and what the problems are, and then make changes and move on. One of the difficulties that we had, if we were to look at what I would call a program that we go out and buy, most of them are looking at somewhere between 15 and 30 sessions, and where did those come from? But math, science, English, and history. So that it's that balancing of this program versus the curriculum. You know, this stays at the 8, which we've always done. Is it the perfect 8? We don't know yet. I do know we have summer curriculum days for further planning. I do know that we'll be selecting a pre-survey and a post-survey so that we can get some real, what I would call concrete data as opposed to just teachers' thoughts and comments like that.
Anything else for Andy? Nate, what do you need from us?
I think we would appreciate it if the board gives an okay to move ahead with sixth grade program. From what I understand, we would come back early in the fall because there was some discussion about the trip
Right.
to New York City and bring that back as a separate item. That's what I was hearing from some of the school board members. But what we'd like to do is initiate this process for sixth grade, evaluate it, and at the same time continue to develop the strand for seventh and eighth grade and piggyback on what is happening in the health program in eighth grade. And we would look at this as a replacement for the DARE program at this point, from what our projecting is an expansion in issues that are directly impacting kids now that we haven't been able to touch.
Sean?
Something that Mr. Corey said was that there were a couple of teachers who were anticipating going to New York and doing some reconnaissance on this. I think you said late in June.
Right.
I would be comfortable with that going forward as part of the information gathering to develop an overall picture as to whether this trip is something we want to approve.
I can easily, we also would have a mailing going out probably early to mid-July where I could put a survey out to sixth grade parents with the cost in it and get their take on it, because we wouldn't be looking until March 12th. So I believe we have enough lead time to get that back to the board October, November, and still have plenty of time to make a decision with more information in front of you, because we can bring it to the PTO, we can bring it out to
But I mean, you can't even have a bake sale anymore.
I guess, George, to get what we'd like is
sale.
basically permission to move ahead and implement, at least on a pilot basis, sixth grade program.
Yep.
We really don't need permission to send teachers
Right.
down to go take a look and make a decision as to whether or
Fine,
not.
I just didn't want to be.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the sixth grade activities learning focus as proposed tonight through page 5.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of moving forward?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Thank you, Mr. Corey. Good luck.
you.
Look forward to hearing more about it.
Chairman,
Alrighty, I'll take a motion for non-public.
I move we move to non-public session requested under RSA 91:A:3, Section 2, A through F.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, roll call.
I want to
Aye.
Hey, George Herman. Thank you all. Have a good evening. Remember, if you're in this room, you are on the air.